Now, as we reported in Primetime Sports Friday, Cricket West Indies has given approval in principle for the Caribbean side's three-test tour of England, which is set to bowl off in July. Joining us now via Zoom to tell us a bit more about the upcoming tour is CEO of Cricket West Indies, Mr. Johnny Grave. Mr. Grave, good evening, sir, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, pleasure.
All right, we've heard about local and international logistics being put in place and some protocols as well for this tour. Let's talk to us a bit about the local logistics. My understanding is that permission will have to be given or be gotten from the various governments around this region for chartered flights to move around with players, medical screening and so on. How is that coming on? How and when will that be done?
Yeah, so on Thursday afternoon, we took a proposal to our board of directors to ask for their blessing to go on the England tour and shared with them the very, very detailed plans that we now have for what will be a tour like no other. This will be completely unprecedented in terms of this biosecure environment that's going to be created. Once we got their approval in principle to continue to just work out these final plans, we today, in fact, asked Roger Harper, the lead selector, to pick the official tour squad, as well as we're going to take at least 10, in fact, other players to go with the squad to England. That means that we'll be completely self-sufficient in terms of our net practice and training, and also practice matches that we'll have in what will be a 4-week build-up to the first test match. But you're right, as of yesterday, we wrote to all the regional governments asking them for permission to land a charter plane in order to pick up players. We're going to have a separate charter from Kingston to Antigua for the Jamaica players, and a Liat plane will leave here in Antigua and go down to Guyana and then make its way back up before all the players will get on a completely reconfigured plane with 40 business class seats at social distancing, and that private charter will make its way from Antigua to the UK for the beginning of the tour.
In terms of this biosecurity environment, sir, this all-inclusive setup, what are the ingredients that Cricket West Indies would have seen which convinced you so much to go ahead with this tour?
Well, it very much starts early next week. All the players are going to be tested in the region for COVID-19 and do full medical screenings. They'll then isolate at home until they get on those charters. All the planes that they'll be getting on, from the ones leaving Kingston and Guyana, making their ways to Antigua, they're all going to be private charters. They're then going to get on a private charter to the UK. When they land, they'll probably be on about 4 or 5 coaches. So again, limiting the number of players that get into these coaches to make their way. We think we're going to be based to start with at Emirates Old Trafford cricket ground in Manchester. West Indies will have the complete privacy of that venue. There's a hotel on site, so that's where we'll be staying, and we'll be the only people staying in that hotel other than the staff that will be looking after the team, and obviously the ground staff. We'll have the full run of the place for 4 weeks. 2 weeks of that will be quarantine. The players will be tested on their arrival into Old Trafford. And again, they'll be tested randomly throughout their period. We're going to travel with a medical doctor. We're taking additional physios and massage therapists in case anything happens to them, but also to look after the additional 25 players that we're going to have in total. And then they're going to make their way down to Southampton for the first test match. Southampton Rose Bowl also has a hotel on site, which again will be exclusively for the England and West Indies teams. England would have been based there for at least, I think, 3 weeks before we get there. Yes. Again, they will all be tested. And in fact, anyone that goes into these cricket grounds will be tested before they're allowed in. And I think they're talking about a maximum of 200 people in these venues. They're going to be very, very secure. And we've been given assurances by our medical panel that this will be as safe for any of our cricketers going to the UK as it would be if they stayed here in the Caribbean at home.
Okay, speak to us a bit also about the protocol if a player tests positive on tour, because I was thinking, or some persons may be thinking, wouldn't the public health department step in and say quarantine the 2 sets of players there and then and abort the test match?
Well, look, I think that the chances of anyone getting COVID-19 are very, very small because of the fact that we've gone to these extreme lengths to keep the players in this tight bubble, and obviously the fact that they'll all be tested before they go. So we think that is very, very unlikely, and everyone that they come into contact with would have been tested as well and remain within this biosecure environment. But if anyone was to test positive, they would be isolated, and there's There's going to be separate areas of the hotel set up just in case that happens. And then obviously anyone that they've come into real sort of direct contact with would also be tested and potentially isolated as well. That's part of the reason that we're taking such a large squad. But as I said from the outset, it's only really as soon as we had that medical comfort and recommendation that it was entirely safe, this tour, it was only then that we took the recommendation to the board of directors. So we're very confident that these plans, that have been put forward to us by the ECB and shared with our medical team are going to mean that the players are going to be as safe as they would be if they were here at home in the Caribbean.
Right. And just quickly before we wrap up, sir, we got information yesterday that players and staff salaries have been cut in half, funding to territorial boards and the territorial franchises as well. And WIPA, this is for the next 3 to 6 months. But what if the Cricket West Indies' financial position, does not improve within this time frame?
Look, yeah, it was with deep regret and huge disappointment that I had to tell all the staff, all the players, all the umpires, all the territorial boards that their funding and wages were going to be cut by 50%. But that was really, we've been able to sort of ride out the first few months of this pandemic, keeping everyone employed and everyone on full pay. But we just reached the stage where unfortunately our cash flow was so tight that we couldn't continue. So we wanted to keep everyone together. We wanted everyone to share equally, and we felt this was the best way to do it, so that as soon as we can get back to playing live cricket here in the Caribbean, that we're all ready to be prepared, not just the players, but the umpires and all the staff. It's obviously not an easy time for any business anywhere in the world, and Cricket West Indies are no different. But we very much hope that this will be a short-term measure and that we can return all our staff onto full pay sooner rather than later.
All right, Mr. Grave, thank you so much for joining us this evening, sir. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Good evening.